strings? I thought you said a while ago you had.
I need to put them strings on. They're really getting dead.
Nose itching and trying to drift too.
Well, something was in the air today, I guess.
I think so.
Just dust, maybe.
Yeah. Well, that wind, yeah, was
Yeah.
picking
And
it up.
my red eye kind of
I know, I
been
went
working
down.
on this
I got a
week.
little bit of wind burn, I think, down there. I went down and cut wood. I was only out about 2 hours, probably, maybe an hour, a little over an hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean, I was up high, and that wind was really blowing.
Yeah, well, it's the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About 3 o'clock.
Let's try a little Billy Lowground. try to end on that down there, and he's nearly over. That's good, and if you can
What do you
get
make?
to end,
Go back to
A minor.
end on the A minor. That's what we're gonna do. But I'm going up
He's
here.
getting that
Oh,
high.
yeah.
We've been trying to end that on A minor. Let's play the last low side, no, the high side, and try to end it in minor. That's kind of a good touch, I think.
Yeah, have you ever heard a minor key tune ended up on a major chord at the end of it, like?
What's a minor?
Well, something like "Oh, Say Old Man," one of those things.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
where they put,
yeah. Same thing, but sounds. I've heard them do that quite a bit.
what's one of those? I was trying to think. I heard a record. He tell you that I heard your record on WWL New Orleans on the
Did I tell you that?
all-night trucker show. The guy used it for a like a end of the show, and he just had instrumentally talked a little bit over, but they let it play for a couple of minutes. And I thought, gosh, that sounds familiar. and I went and got the record out just because I hadn't heard the record in a long time. And it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and went and got the record out.
Somebody else heard New Orleans one time that was traveling down in there. Called me up when they got back and said, you know, you were played on a New Orleans station. Maybe this same old boy. Maybe
Well, it's all night truck.
Yeah, it was a late. He said it's about 2 in the morning. He said it's real late.
And they play traditional country music.
Yeah.
And old, Carter family and Jimmy Rogers, things like that. And anyway, that one DJ never does say the name. He says the names of all the songs after they're over with, except instrumentals.
That irritates me when they don't identify what they're playing. I always wish they would, because I'd like to know it.
But they do. They're pretty good about that. And the weekend guys are even better for our old traditional music.
Yeah.
But so I went and got the record out, and it was that fat back.
Fat Meat and Dublin?
Yeah. And Wagoner and
yeah, that's what we just did a while ago.
And but anyway, a couple of nights ago they did the same thing with somebody else's fiddle tune. But I was trying to think of one of those A tuning fiddle tunes, something like Lost Indian, but another one in there. What's another one of?
Gosh.
Well, there's Black Mountain.
Yeah, not Black Mountain Rag, but it was a.
Oh, I know.
Like Old Hens one, some of them do it now.
Yeah, I know that one, but it's a Lost Indian variation or something like that.
Yeah.
After a while, play that.
All right.
Retune, play that.
All right.
Well, I'm hoping you're finally realizing what greatness you're around when you're around us. At the great Dudley Murphy concert, which I went to because I just wanted to see what was going on, and I benefited. I thought it was for some charity, or something. It wasn't until I left that I realized. Mona said, "Well, did you contribute some money to Dudley?" And I said, "Why?" It was to send them to that Pine Mountain, whatever it is. It was for Dudley. See, the money was.
Well, I thought it was for the SMSU radio.
It was to help finance Dudley's trip. And that's what Kenny Richardson said. Well, I bet Dudley really enjoyed having you there. But anyway, after the warm-up people,
on this?
well, it was way too long. Judy Domney was on. She was okay. She was about 20 minutes at the most.
Yeah.
And then they had those Bluegrass Zombies from Hell,
Yeah.
which is Bo Brown and Cunningham, and they had Nancy Curtis, and then the Jacobsmeyer boy. My God, they were on an hour. And that started, I walked in there and they were just starting at 5 after 7. And we had our intermission at 9 o'clock. And they had, Murphy came on and they said, now he'll do a brief set. Murphy never does brief sets. And finally, Smith.
He does a brief set tuning up.
Yeah.
He'll give the
Well, they did
history of the world while he's tuning.
Yeah. But they, and finally we got out at 9 o'clock, and everybody's rears were numb from sitting so long, But anyway, between the warm-ups and everything, well, that Mike Smith came out and said, we want to recognize some very prominent musicians in the area here. Said one who plays with his cohort Galbraith, Gordon, McCann, and they put the spotlight on me. I had to stand up while they all and I thought, well, I'll wait till I tell Hard about this now. But I hope you realize this as the years go by. But Art, how soon they forget, isn't that right? How soon they forget.
Yeah, you're on top, and then there's only one place to go, down.
That's right. Yeah. We tell them all it's really lonely at the top.
In that East Oval office.
I'm playing a Bill Cheatham.
Wait just a second, let me get the... No, Dudley makes such a production out of getting in tunes, and some of these guys, real good guys like J.D. Crowe and some of those, they go tune for about 5 minutes and don't say anything to anybody, and they tune it up once, and then they just chuck the corn and don't worry about it.
And another thing I didn't notice he did until this guy I was sitting with, he said, now watch. He said,
what's the one? I heard this on WWL. I forgot about the one that Chubby Wise named for his wife.
Rossi.
Yeah. No, I just was thinking that was it. Yeah. Well, what's the title? It's in another key.
G. It's in G.
It's not. It's got some crooked stuff in it, but you can soon get it. Association puts out called, I forget what it's called, it's just kind of paper. Chuck Stearman.
Yeah. Spigma.
Huh?
Spigma.
Yeah. Anyway, it said that Chubby Wise can't stand to play the fiddle anymore. He has to sit. And he, when he plays, why, they usually favor him by something that he can sit down and play.
Yeah, because he can't even stand that.
I heard of some kind of tape bluegrass festival, maybe on New Orleans the other night. I just leave my clock radio running all night to that, and just on Sundays and just snooze to that, and I play bluegrass thing about 5 in the morning. And there's some festival someplace, and he was announcing that he was going to be kind of semi-retired, and that's going to be in the last couple, 3 years.
Who are their hot new fiddlers on the Opry now? Who are any young ones? They don't have any young ones now, do they?
They got the staff band that plays behind everybody.
Yeah.
All the same names and behind everybody.
There's some guy named Tommy Williams, I think, is a fiddler.
I haven't even noticed many staff fiddlers. I haven't noticed them playing too much. Always some of the guitar player, you know.
Yeah, they
well,
always...
this boy used to play with Bill Monroe, you know, fairly recently. He's got 2 of these turquoise records.
Oh, this is Glenn Duncan?
Glenn Duncan. Now, he's good fiddler.
Well,
boy, this kid the other night was a pizen, I tell
he
you.
was good backup stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
He's good on his
He
backup
told me, he
stuff.
said, I don't play many tunes. He played Gold Rush, but did everything in the world with it.
Yeah.
Let's play Gold Rush.
But sometimes G.
I don't think so.
sharp minor.
There?
Yeah, I guess you never do it. You go to D, a lot of them do, and a lot of them don't. On that second part.
I'm gonna get a capo and play the bluegrass way.
Here, you got this?
No, I haven't got one here.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, my case is one. There's a capo in my case. Just open it up there, Tommy.
Well, you know, like the old man with that Nader family from up in Augusta, Missouri. Of course, he's bound to be Lord. That was years ago, and he was 90-something then. But he did make some little runs on that cello. He sat and played his cello, and he just, like you do with the fiddle, he chord, you know, but then he occasionally makes something that really sounds good.
I'll play Blue Gold.
Play Little Rush again. I'll try to play a bluegrass. Finger over there makes the minor.
Yeah.
Only when you're here, you know.
That's your F sharp.
Play Wake Up Sue.
Yeah, may I put something in between there?
We'll play Polk County Breakdown.
I've had them both down, I know that. I know it's been recording. Oh well.
You want to record on mine?
No, this is okay. I just was. Let's see.
Were you online?
I have no idea. Oh, but it's on, whatever it's doing, if it's even recording. I guess it is.
If you got your cord,
Got
you
it.
would play.
Yeah, I've got it on tape. It's on tape. I may have to have a headphone. This may not play. It doesn't. This doesn't play. Yeah, it's got a radio. It should be playing back.
he'll say, have salt. He said, you're just kidding, aren't you? And I said, no, I'm not kidding you. And it wasn't 2 minutes till he said, I have salt, and I just exploded.
He's got some others that are different than me.
Let's see, let's go to D and pay some.
Hey, about 10 years ago, there was a SMS.
I'm off here.
Yeah, that's... Now you make the chord.
shops to get that hot shot high school basketball tournament in here. They bring about four or five teams from all across the country.
I had no idea.
Thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, tens of thousands.
Yeah.
I don't know why. You know, see, the tournament champions when I was growing up, did they have it when you were in school? It wasn't from all over the country. It was St. Louis and Kansas City and maybe Little Rock and Wichita.
Well, they call that.
TSC is what it was called, TSC. And those were just as good as going to Washington, D.C. and all that. I don't know if they have to bring them some guitar. I guess that's nowadays they do, you know. I mean, just more spectacular. But that was a good tournament years ago. And this, of course, I just don't have as much interest when they get so far away. Because they're just too far for me, you know. It's just like bringing foreigners in.
Well, we're talking about there's money backing it up. How much? You say you bring three hot shot teams and then one Springfield team or one area team to play them from the coast. What'd that cost to bring?
Did they fly them in, didn't they?
Oh, sure.
Sure they did. Oh, what'd you say, $20,000, $25,000 at least? At least, plus all the other stuff. Of course, they sell tickets too, so that offsets some of it. Of course, that's a lot of publicity out of it. Yeah. Right. Well, I'd say $25,000. So putting them up here,
and he takes off his taxes.
So
artsy-type people and go see him.
I'm going to go see him for this thing in October, but now I'm just going to try to get a little bit out of it, because there's going to be a couple of talks on track and that kind of stuff.
That'll be around plenty to call it.
You'll see him go listen to everybody else.
Yeah,
they
they'll
won't
say,
get up
oh,
and play.
somebody from the church might be there.
Oh, yeah. Well, some of these guys, I don't think church entered into their lifestyle.
I was trying to think of the story about Jude. They had in the Church of Christ down next, they have elders, and they're watchdogs.
Yeah.
And one time, one of them came over to the house and waited on Jude as an officer of the church. for going to Ozark and playing out there, you know. And said, I'll tell you what it'll do, Mr. Herndon. Said, if you next Sunday at church, if you'll stand up in church and say you're sorry you did it. Said, the hell with you. Said, I'm not about to do that. Said, I have more fun at that than I do at church, and so on and so forth. The fellow said, well, I'm awful sorry. Jude said, well, I'm through with you. You can just go now.
But now he got in trouble for when we had that White River Valley historical thing on a Sunday down at School of the Ozarks.
Yeah, they just waited on him about that.
Yeah, too, because he played on stage down there. Well, they wouldn't have known it except the newspaper had a picture in the paper, you know, showing the jig dancing. Of course, that even really made it bad then, so.
Boy, if somebody ever wants a real ugly incident, they better not say anything to me.
Let's play London Hornpipe. That's the illustration of my point about Justin setting up his tunes to get out rid of the slurs, you know, and I like that. I can play it with the slurs.
Yeah, for the short notes especially. All there is in the world.
You know, everybody's always saying, Art, how you play a fiddle, don't use any more of your bow with that. You know, it's always down to the battlefield. Somebody's always coming up saying. But that helps that boy because I've got him on a lot of tunes.
Yeah.
Let's see some of the tunes that I've taught him. I've got a whole list of them.
How would you second Sweet Georgia Brown? How's it?
Yeah, I've never.
I've watched that Bo Brown.
Well, I was trying to think.
He's real clean on it. And
well, if I knew?
Well, I know what it is up here, but I
chords?
can't remember now. See, it's in C.
Well, it's
It's in F, isn't it?
F. It's in F. Yeah. Well, I can't remember now. I thought you might have known.
It's probably F then D first. Well, that's.
I'd have trouble even
But I noticed
recognizing the tune.
that Bo Brown is good, smooth on seconding. I mean, he's good on chords.
One of these Bob Wills records has got a version where you can discern the chord changes to it.
On that?
Yeah.
That tune?
Yeah, I don't know if it's one of these Tiffany's.
Oh, I'll get it.
But he comes down like you do with that rhythm, but they fit right in. I think it really sounds good rather than just banging away. I was the second guy still before. But the rhythm chord is much better on that.
Yeah, those chop.
Yeah, those real soft, real that type of stuff. I really like that.
And see that?
I wish I could do some of that. See,
now what you were doing there is this. They do some little kind of a chromatic thing, which is really not a chord change. It's just like making runs in a chord. It's
the whole chord is a run.
Yeah.
Well, no, the band is playing a chord and staying in a chord, but it's like you've heard these bebop type piano players that kind of thing like that. We've got an old 78 here, Pearl Bailey, and it's just rhythm on the piano, and it's Pearl, what you doing down here on Rampart Street? It's Mom's Mabley, Jackie Mabley and Pearl Bailey doing. I'm going on the piano and hide. It's the cops. That's what I was saying.
Let's play Sunday Night Radio, not you. G. We haven't played it in a long time. you go through all three changes of the chord, like the G and the C and the D. That'll work nearly every time in that.
And or you don't have to do
Or
it.
you don't have to do it.
And you know, I was thinking when you making these alternate bass runs, that's part of the C chord.
Yeah.
And so it's.
Yeah, as long as you're playing the bass.
And when, so for instance, if you're alternating these two, there's the G chord. You're alternating the big one and the third. That's part of the C chord. It's just all.
Yeah, that's
You know, music is so mathematical. It's a surprise. I never did any better than math. I mean, the patterns and that.
page of tunes that I've taught him. Twinkle Twinkle, San Antonio Road, Flop-Eared Mule, Wagoner, Soldier Joyce, Bill Cheatham, Golden Slippers, Faded Love, Interlake Waltz, and Sunday Night Reel. Going down the line, and he can get every one of them just by telling him. He doesn't.
Yeah.
You don't have to play it for him. I remember. He said, "Oh yeah, I remember that."
You know, something I always like. You've listened to Norman Blake records.
Mm-hmm.
You know those single note high runs he does a lot of times on some of these hoedown type tunes.
High
where he goes up. He's making runs high, and then he comes back down, and it just fits right in. And then he comes back in on his basses.
Probably figured it out if I heard about them.
Listen, well, I'll tell you, some of the tunes are like those hoedown. He's got some hoedown hornpipe type tunes on.
Where he picks, or somebody else fiddling?
No, but the fiddler's playing, but he's making some high runs. Is what he's doing. And he's coming
like
back
in
down.
Charlie Collins or one of those records like that.
Well, I don't know Charlie Collins. But
Have
you got any of those records with him playing with James Bryan?
No, they're here. But,
it's on those James Bryan records. Is where he does it.
Another one.
There's a Something Creek tune he does, like Good Creek or Gooden Creek or something like that, where he makes those high runs in there. No, he's up here. He's up on. His bass notes are high. He's running something, and then he comes back down, and it sounds real good on a fast hoedown type thing, you know.
That's on that James Bryan.
It's on that James Bryan record. There's 2 or 3 tunes he does it on. there, Santa Claus, yeah.
Because that's where the bee is really not in flock of birds.
No.
Play flock of birds.
Right.
Could be.
No, we put it in there. We put it in there. Now play it Raymond's version. Do you remember that?
And I part of that in Raymond.
You were doing one. Yeah, I was thinking you were doing part of that in Raymond.
I'll play it all Raymond now.
Now play yours.
This is almost like.
Yeah, but Raymond is a little bluesier
Yeah.
than yours or something. He had a little different style, and he can play them both. It was a little different though. One time we used to do that, play your part, then Raymond's, then your part.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me there was a little more difference in it. Maybe not. Maybe not.
There's a little more difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what era is that?
Oh, same as Dixie Blossom.
Scott
Turn of the
Joplin.
century. Yeah. Turn of the century.
See, Percy Wendrick wrote his stuff right in before the First World War. The gay night, into the gay 90s when they had all the Tin Pan Alley stuff started. So it'd be turn of the century. I found his grave over at Joplin when I was looking for my great grandmother's, and when Joplin had their centennial, they put a fence around his grave with a little plaque on it.
Oh, now he's the guy who
He's-
Joplin wrote Silver Bells.
He wrote Moonlight Bay, When You Wore a Tulip, Put On Your Old Gray Bonnet. And most people don't even realize these tunes are still popular. Most people don't realize that he was from Joplin.
Well, now there
He
was
was buried over there in Fairview Cemetery.
one that you hear the banjo players playing. Chad Atkins used to play. It's called the Rainbow, Silver Rainbow. And
I don't know. What
It's,
that is.
it's another one of these Indian maiden songs like
Oh, yeah.
Red Wing.
Yeah. That sounds like almost what is it, the fiddle tune that's like that, Art. It's not that though. They don't call it that. Silver Bells or
Silver Bells.
Well, now that's
in a different key. Yeah.
but I never did always like them. And
I love those. In fact, I've got a bunch of old 78s I picked up in recent years that have some of those. I like that era of music. That was a good, jumpy time of music. And good waltzes done then too.
something else. Have you ever run across this book called Read 'Em and Weep by Sigmund Spaeth? S-P-A-E-T-H.
I've heard of him. I've heard of him.
Well, the Springfield
Maybe
Library.
you.
Well, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's all those songs like that they worked their way into a lot of country, but She's More to Be Pitied Than Censured was the original thing. The Stanley Brothers did She's More to Be Pitied Than Scolded, and Ricky Skaggs did it, but you're talking about this Dixie Blossom being one of these concert hall band
Yeah, music hall band.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. Okay, this would be like W.C. Handy's band, probably. Okay, now the Flatt and Scruggs had this instrumental called Dear Old Dixie,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things like that. And I assumed it was something like
But
that.
now, Darryl Dixie's also a pretty popular fiddle tune too.
Well,
Is that the same one?
It comes from Flatt and
I think
Scruggs.
so, yeah.
But that's something like Bully of the Town, which that's also one of those.
Yeah. Now, Bully of the Town, now that's a little older, and that was a coon song. Bully of the Town was a black guy that bullied the colored section. I've got the words and then quite a story on that in my stuff at home that I got with this JEMF record. that has turkey and that has, oh, you go wild over that record. I have to get that for you sometime.
I've got a couple of those. I got a Carter family JE.
Yeah, but this has a really booklet with it on all that. Like Whistling Rufus is also a coon, was not a vicious coon song, but a minstrel. Really, it's after the minstrels, but it was still a carryover of the minstrel type, blackface type singers, you know.
Whistling Rufus was supposed to be a cakewalk. You know,
Yeah.
1896 or something like that. Hi-hat.
Yeah, now I've got this record. I got a Whistling Rufus with that McLaughlin's old time melody. They sing that on there.
I tell you, when I was a boy, I used to go to the Toads. There's a couple there named Sam Mamer, M-A-M-E-R, and his wife and daughter. And his wife was just a demurest little old woman, and you just couldn't, anything off color just made her blush, you know. But anyway, she could do a cakewalk. And she
That's
always
something
had
where
that-
their legs cross one another some
A
way.
little bit like that. There's a lot of variations to it. But anyway, she always wanted to borrow a bow. She used it bow.
Like the king.
Yeah.
Well, now, is that also the one that you see in some of these old movies where they walk as they dance? They're walking, they aren't dancing, they don't slide their feet. They walk. Is that, what kind of dance is that? You'll see them do those all the time.
Black
No,
people.
no, white. This is white.
Well,
They're dancing, they're round dancing.
that's a
No.
foxtrot, as far as I know.
But
Fred
they're walking. They
Astaire
don't
type.
slide. No. Yeah. But
Here's
these later,
the-
these are a little more choppy. I've seen some of those old movies. They show them doing it.
Yeah, it's a...
Is that a foxtrot? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
The old, original foxtrot, by the way.
I see there's a two-step and a one-step and a foxtrot and a waltz. That's the four things that we're trying to... Now, two-step is faster. I've got a good two-step on the record there. And,
What's quick step? Like Weidman's quick step?
well, that's
That was
how...
almost a line dance, though, wasn't it?
Huh?
Wasn't it almost a line dance, kind of like Virginia Reel, the quick step?
No.
It was a
no,
two-person
it's
dance.
a little bit like a polka.
Oh, it was like a polka.
G.
Yeah.
Gee.
Say it.
See.
It's two keys. Then we go back to C on it.
That's a little bit approaching polka. And polkas aren't all alike. I mean, they're slower polkas, you know. Lawrence Welch wrote polkas, you know.
Well, another thing, it's just kind of like that's the European ethnic settlement
Yeah.
music
yeah.
as opposed to the
Yeah,
Appalachian or the
Dakotas and Nebraska.
Yeah.
it's in there.
They showed
Texas too.
on one of these special, like 60 Minutes, it wasn't 60 Minutes, it was one of those, maybe it's Charles Sproul on something. They went up to a station in Minnesota that's all they play is polkas. Nothing else. Solid polkas, all the hours they're on, you know. But it's called the polka capital area or something of the United States, where everybody polkas.
I could learn that clarinet polka if I didn't mess with it.
That's in 3 keys, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good.
And then Bill Monroe had a heel and toe polka, you know.
Another one, what's that Jesse polkas? That other one they play a lot of.
Let's play,
Oh yeah, Hillbilly Hold Down or Dixie Hold Down.
Dixie Hold Down.
tune.
I think just made up by Jim and Jesse or something. But
Yeah,
it's got a
yeah.
polka thing to it instead of bluegrass. More of a polka.
Yeah.
Lonnie got that Dick Hillbilly Hoedown started, didn't he, or something like that?
Oh, Lonnie, he thought, no, I said
He
was
played
our
that
first.
in A, didn't he?
Henley.
He did Henley?
Henley said,
What
that's
did-
Hillbilly Hoedown.
Did he play it in G?
I played in A.
That's what I thought, because when I learned that is with Lonnie,
Yeah.
and he played it in A, because it's got a rough change in there in A. What did I change to an A? F sharp? C sharp, yeah. That's C sharp?
That's
I don't
C
know.
minor there.
No, I want C sharp.
Make a C. I'll make a 7th in there. I move it up 1 fret. 1 fret. Yeah.
It'll be like,
Oh, well.
but that's got more of a polka touch to it than bluegrass.
Yeah.
Thing to it.
Let's play Ragtime Man.
Yeah, we haven't played that in a long time.
Now, one place there, Tommy, you ought to get a G where you're getting an A now. G, hold your G. D. A. Hold that. Now here's it's lead out, you know, I taught him that. That's
Oh,
not
you're
it.
not on it.
That's there. That's all so-called Too Young to Marry.
Oh, and let's see, and
You think it's another?
Love Somebody is what Jesse Wallace calls it.
Yeah, he.
There's somebody called that a tune with 1,000 names.
Yeah.
I've heard bluegrass guitar players call it pussyfoot. That's just some local one. But what's the difference? That's the same era as Ragtime Man, isn't it?
I think so.
And also now, what about Chinese breakdancing?
I don't know. That's somewhere
That's
in there
similar,
too.
isn't it?
Yeah, that's similar.
I bet lead out may be older though.
It might-
That seems melody seems pretty simple to be in that era.
It might be a
hornpipe has
renamed
been-
old tune.
I think
Well,
it's almost like a
let me
hornpipe.
put this Ragtime Annie chorus and I'll show you. That part does. The other part. That's got to change, like that part of it's got to change, like Twinkle Little Star. It's got that thing in it. You know,
They mix up. They mix some stuff up in there. I said they mixed some tunes probably up. I got a list. I got 3 pages of fiddlers recorded in the Ozarks. And I'm going to send them to Library of Congress, but I'm just afraid they say nowadays it's pretty expensive to get them to tape them off, you know. I'd like to try and get them taped off.
Now, what's that?
Fiddlers
That have been taped by Randolph and Lomax and people like that back in the 30s and 40s. A lot of names are familiar on the thing, you know.
Here's another tune that I kind of cooked up. Redbud Reel. We
Yeah,
have that.
well, it's been a long time.
He's a D.
G.
Play a little Blue Mule or Christmas time is coming and that.
Yeah, kind of, isn't it?
Yeah, that's an old Fiddlin' John Carson or Georgia Wildcats or something like called Christmas Time Will Soon Be Over.
Yeah.
And I'll skip to Malou and
Yeah.
and now what's the song Polly Wolly Doodle, which is kind of like
Nope.
that's skip to Malou there.
Yeah.
No, I got me off on that.
Yeah.
I had it a while ago. I had Polly Wolly Doodle. Polly Wolly Oh, we got
They're similar, but they're the same kind of thing.
Yeah. Probably an old play party too.
Yeah, that's that.
Let's play up some waltz or two. Hey, Seamus.
I want to add something else. We're talking about these old time songs. Or these, you ever look into these Stamps Baxter type, some of those songs
Yeah.
and things like
Well,
that?
most of the Stamps Baxter I had was all religious, though. Because that's all they did, wasn't it? Was religious? Did they do other stuff? Okay,
well,
yeah.
well,
Yeah, okay.
consider, but you ever heard of a song called Old Ship of Zion?
Yeah.
Well,
Did you hear about the boy that got in trouble? Little boy ran down to the tent meeting, and his dad his dad went down there. Well, his dad suddenly got religion. He was sitting down there, and they all crowded around him. And little boy ran home. He said, "Oh mama, oh mama!" I said, "Something terrible's happened." She said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Daddy's dead." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "They were all singing the old shits of dying."
Yeah, I heard that.
what about the two congregations that were kind of rivals, like a Methodist or Baptist, were singing one was singing the hymn, "Will there be any stars in my crown?" The other one was singing, "No, not one," across the street. But I know this old, I heard a old Ship of Zion, real slow country blues, or blues in the sense of Carter family type lonesome way.
You want to hear some interesting stuff? There's a bunch of those real old hymnals. I mean, out of those 150 and 200-year-old hymn books, there's some of these fiddle tunes have been pulled out of there. And this boy down here at Ratcliffe, Arkansas, this Evan Green, has two. One in particular that is almost all in minors. It is really pretty. And I think the thing's been hard for me to second it. I'm trying to put too much in it, I think. And his brother just seconds it right along. But I wish you could hear that. It is beautiful. And it's come out. His uncle got it out of an old hymnal that his mother had.
Well, now there's a couple of stories like that. There, this Kenny Cantrell, hot shot bluegrass banjo player from Oklahoma, and he had a kid playing with him up at Stratford one time, and he played one called, seemed like it was Living Waters or something like that.
Yeah.
But he just picked it, and he didn't know, they didn't sing it, and it was one of these cross-picking thing like that. But he said he got it out of an old-time hymn book, and he just worked it out note by note, learned to read the music, because he'd had some kind of high school band instrument, and so he knew how to read music. Now this other one is called The Model Church. You ever heard that?
I don't think so.
Now it's J.D. Crowe and his group sing and this Doyle Lawson, they sing that, and the words are real old-timey. It makes me think of, I was trying to think of what year, a lot of hymns have archaic language in them, but the Appalachian, some of those songs aren't as old, but they sound as old as the Puritan songs. These Cumberland Presbyterians, I imagine, have older sounding songs, and that's where that might have come from. But those are both interesting songs. And Living Waters was this one that was instrumental.
Have you heard this Lee family from down at Battlefield?
Yeah.
Boy, I think they got an old time harmony. The three of them do.
Yeah.
I think they're really good. I haven't heard them in a long. I've only heard them at 2 funerals. Boy, they have an old
the redheaded guy.
The bluegrass gospel they call themselves or something like that. Have you heard them lately?
Battlefield Express.
Yeah.
No, they call themselves the Battlefield Gospel or something, didn't they?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Yeah.
You know,
bluegrass.
one of, she had some older children, or they both had older children before they married one another. But her son, was with the Marines that so many were killed in Lebanon and they exploded. He wasn't killed, but he was there.
See, I just saw him with this daughter. I mean, she's a grown girl.
Yeah.
She sang kind of an alto. Boy, they were good though. I thought they were about as good a trio. I'd like to get them to do something. What I'd like to do is have a program on Brumley down there and then have them sing Brumley songs, see?
I used to play.
What key that be?
A.
See, that'd be B minor there, that second chord. Let's see. On the other.
Change it a quick D2.
No, I'm trying to, that's it. A7, then
What was that?
A and then A7. But the time ought to be like your cotillion almost.
That's leaning on the everlasting arm.
We got to work on that. That's good. That could be work some good stuff. minor and then end up with a D in that
Yeah,
second
like,
part.
it'd
Yeah.
be like going to, if you're in G, be
Going
going
backwards.
to hitting A minor, then C.
Yeah,
It'd be
yeah.
like B minor.
I do that. You know what I do that in? It sounds good. It's Sweet Bunch of Daisies.
Yeah, yeah.
I go to the A minor first and then down to the C, and it sounds real good.
Now, I was used to hearing been for years hearing the Stanley Brothers singing. They did it. But more, not so much of a march as just the bluegrass way here. And a little more of a rest at the end of.
Let's remember that. That's a good week working.
What was that other little song I used to, Leaning on the Everlasting Arm?
That's what you just
That's not
played.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Leaning on the Everlasting. And then I used to play another. It's in one of those booklets in yours in there.
What'd you play at Emmanuel's funeral?
Softly and tenderly.
Yeah. Did we? Is that what we played?
Yeah.
Remember what we played?
That's the same tune, isn't it?
Softly and tenderly.
Yeah, I played this.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Like these, hit the D and then the D7. Change the D. You know what the pop song was stolen from that was Waterloo.
Oh,
Waterloo.
yeah.
D and D7 over now.
Oh, I know what goes. Do it again. Yeah, I'll say that. How you gonna sing that? The second part. Do this. You ain't mine of that. You say mine.
Like a.
We just put an A in there. It's got one A in
Hey,
that first part.
I got a new D7th from these, or D9th from these Merle Travis records. Is playing an A, make a bluesy D, and I'll show you how.
What's that?
But anyway, it's like here, here, and there, and it's all 6 strings of work. But your big fingers are back one fret.
Oh, here.
There.
And then
the third finger.
third finger's on the 3rd string,
Oh.
and your first finger's on the 2nd string.
This finger dropped down to here, right here, like you make that C. Now you got it, haven't you?
No, I think that.
No,
That
that's
go
you
there,
got
on the
no,
D?
no.
That goes on the B?
No,
No,
B
yeah.
string, yeah,
B
right
string.
there.
You got it.
That's the E, and that's the Is that A string there?
No, it's on the G string. It's on the third.
Yeah, third string. G.
No, it's on the. You're on the fourth. It goes over one more string down that way.
Oh, there. Oh, I'm counting from the wrong side.
Now there's. Doesn't sound much by itself, but that works just fine. Make your. But anyway, that's this in the Sweet By and By, and what's the other one? The two songs, the Waterloo made up those two songs, Sweet By and By, and When the Roll Was Called Up Yonder. Okay, in the Sweet is the Waterloo, and the verse of the other one is the verse. You know, let's see, like. See, oh, General Napoleon of France, conquered the world and lost his pants. Meet your Waterloo, Waterloo, Waterloo.
Nothing's sacred.
Huh?
Nothing's sacred.
No. Well, there's
just so many songs you can write, you know.
Well, there's
until I got into rock and roll, and that's made a difference.
Well, a lot of these songs are religious songs taken from secular and vice versa.
Yeah, that one more I'm going to have to hit on here.
Well,
I'm going to cut wood again tomorrow morning. Play Sail Away Ladies. That's always a good thing. A, and then F sharp minor, and then B minor.
Shake your Bigfoot Sally,
yeah.
Because the first time I played it just major chords, like this thing that flat and Scruggs banjo tune.
But I like the B minor. Get your F sharp.
It's like a guitar that has about 10 strings. If I play major and he plays minor. Have you ever seen these guitars, these George Van Epps 7-string guitar? It's like an F-hole guitar, and it's like a 5-string fiddle. It's got one more string. It's got 4 on one side, and it just has one more step of bass notes. And you see these old Gibson lute things that have one freestanding bass strings on it.
8 strings up there. That was a big old harp guitar. I did show them. Well, let's play Seamus.
Yeah. dropped. My D hip dropped. Hit your open B.
There you go. Hold on, there, yeah.
Should be putting a F7th in that, but it's too hard to hit.
I just do. F's hard to play anyway.
I'm getting kind of used to F and B flat because for some reason I've been around some people who've been playing.
Practice.
Yeah, I mean I'm hitting. Used to be, boy, the E flat was that killed me, but I'm hitting the E flat pretty quick now.
Yeah,
used to be really I had
I'll show you an E flat that's.
But no, there's another one up here.
Well, there's one that's here. Just how your C chord is.
Yeah.
You know when you put this little finger down on C, go back to C up here, and put the little finger down on the first string.
On the first string?
Okay. Now run this up to this fret, and all the strings work for E flat.
Oh, yeah.
Except the bass.
Yeah, well.
Slim Wilson E flat.
Yeah, but now I've gotten so used to hitting this now. Took me forever to learn that. That is a good chord. I like the open
B flat.
I like those open strings like that. You know, it's when they're up high and got some open
that's
strings.
the Goodwill family. Slim always.
Now, let's see.
Yeah.
Where was I again? Where are you?
Make your C.
Well, hit a C.
Now run it up there. Now drop your little finger on the first string.
You know, there's an A up in here somewhere you can hit that way too. That all the strings are.
Well, hit A like you
just the same thing, isn't it?
No, it's.
Get your A like
I don't know. There's somewhere else up in here. Way up here, I hit something that. Oh, I know.
No, it's like you hit your A flat or E flat.
Those are all in tune.
That's an A.
That's an A.
D position.
Yeah.
Let's play God's Hours from Heaven.
Yeah.
That's a B flat.
It goes to E flat and then
F.
And then F.
Yep.
Yeah.
E flat.
C minor.
Okay. It works in there. almost sounds like a seventh though. Is that
See,
E flat seven?
where your middle finger is on that, that's the open string is the same note. There's just two. No, it's not a seven. That'd be the seven. Like C7. You know how you make C7?
Yeah.
Make C7.
Make
up
C7.
there. Okay.
Slide it clear down.
Up
there.
5, up there. That's E flat 7. He's at it.
When I first learned G up here, that was the chords I hit. Of course, you can do it for any of them that are F position.
Go back to G.
Well, I mean, no, that's an F of some kind, isn't it? In other words, that's the way I learned first.
F7.
And this then, right here,
C.
that's E flat.
E flat 7.
That's that E flat 7 we were talking about.
Yeah.
That's the same place. If I put it here, it's open then, isn't it?
And that's E flat major.
Oh, one more. I am going to have to. My rear's even getting sore here. I have to get up and cut wood in the morning.
G.
Going back from D to G, what are you using?
I hit that D9 that I did a while ago, or like
In the other part?
yeah, or D7th or D9.
I've been hitting the C, and it should be a D7th, isn't it? D7th is what I've hit.
Yeah, that's what
D7th is what I've hit, yeah. I hit that C.